Good evening, everybody. We're going to start in just over a minute, just waiting for 7 o'clock and give everybody a chance to join the live stream. I think while we're waiting for everyone to join the live stream, I just want to welcome everyone. Tonight's webinar is all about the GED. We're going to be introducing the GED, what it's all about. Good evening, everybody. We're going to start in just over a minute, just waiting for 7 o'clock. Give everybody a chance to join the live stream. Okay, so welcome to our webinar. Thank you for joining us. Homeschooling has really seen exponential growth over the last couple of years, and I think COVID has really pushed it even further. And so many new parents have been contacting us as they investigate homeschooling. My name is Sean Swartz. I'm the CEO of Accommodations Solutions, and we are the official office of the GED in Africa. A special welcome to all our new GED students and parents. And today we are also privileged to be joined by both Lindsay and Angela. They will be talking a little later and answering your questions. They're both experts in the GED. We are live on YouTube. We have made the comments facility available for you, so please feel free to start typing in your questions in the comments facility. We will be monitoring these questions, and we will try our best to answer all your questions after our presentation of what the GED is all about. And so without wasting any time, I would like to start our presentation. So, the GED test, what is it? It's a secondary school leaving certificate. We are, as I mentioned before, GED Africa. We represent the GED on behalf of the USA throughout Africa. And the official website with a huge amount of information is www.ged.org.za. So please bookmark that website, refer back to it whenever you have a question. There's a huge amount of information available there for you. So what is the purpose of the GED test? Well, it's essentially to provide results leading to a high school equivalency credential, which is basically the equivalent of a grade 12. And it helps you as students get ready to enter the workforce, as well as to study further, and it obviously identifies your strengths and weaknesses. To me, the most important thing about the GED is the skills that it helps you develop while you're studying towards writing the exams. And unlike the past, where you could literally in school just learn things off by heart and then write it out in an exam, that doesn't work anymore. To pass the GED, it's all about critical thinking skills. You have to be able to think. You have to be able to analyze. You have to be able to problem solve. You have to be able to read, not just on a high level, but be able to dig deeper and understand what's the insides of the paragraphs that you're reading, not just a high level overview. And so the GED is all about critical thinking skills, no matter which of the 4 exams we're talking about. And there are 4 exams and only 4 exams in the GED test. You have to write and you have to pass. All 4 in order to graduate and receive your GED diploma. What are they? Well, the first one is reasoning through language arts, which is essentially English. English is made up of language, reading, and the most important and very important part of the test is the essay. And why is that? Because the essay is all about critical thinking skills, and that helps you develop the skills that you need in all the other subjects as well. The second subject is mathematical reasoning or maths. The third is science, and the fourth is social studies. So let's quickly look at the details behind them. So the English exam, or RLA, as it's known, there's really 3 main components. You learn about reading for meaning, you learn about identifying and creating arguments, which is the essay component, and then grammar and language. As you can see, it's the details is it's a 150-minute exam. You get a 10-minute break between the second and third part, and you get only 45 minutes to write your essay. So please don't rush through it. Work on it, spend the time that's allocated, and do the essay as you will get taught by us. And then the price. How much does it cost to write the final exam? Well, it's $80, which at the moment, if you convert it into rands, is approximately 1,250 rand. The maths exam, also, all 4 exams are the same price, $80. What do you need to know? You need to know basic maths. You need to know some geometry, basic algebra, and graphs and functions. And the exam, there are no breaks, and it's 115 minutes. The science exam, well, there's actually 3 components to the science exam. You actually learn 3 different subjects, but you write only 1 exam for all 3 subjects, and that is life sciences, physical sciences, as well as earth and space sciences. It's a 90-minute exam and also $80. And the 4th and final exam is the social studies. And again, it's made up of multiple subjects. So it's social studies, obviously. There's history, economics, and geography. That's a 70-minute exam and also $80. And where can you write these exams? So you study and you prepare for these exams. You can study online, you can study at a home school, at a cottage school, wherever you study and prepare. You can study on your own. You can use a textbook to study. It really doesn't matter. We don't mind, as long as you prepare for the exams properly. Then when you're ready to write the exams, you can go, depending on your country. If you're in South Africa, you can go to any one of the Boston City campus centers to write the exam, or you can also go to the Pearson VUE Testing Center in Sandton. If you're in Namibia, you have to go to our one and only testing center called PCCS. It's in Windhoek. And if you want to write your exam in Kenya, you have to be in Nairobi, and you write it at Uniserve. And how old you have to be? Well, you have to be 17 years of age if you're writing in South Africa and Namibia, and 18 if you're writing in Kenya. You can't write at the age of 16. So you can study and prepare while you're 16 years old, but you have to wait until you're 17 to write that exam. And accommodations are available. There are many different types of accommodations available. And so if you do require accommodation, there is a process to follow to apply to get your accommodation. And once you've got it, then and only then can you book your exam if you are requiring an accommodation. Please don't wait until the week before to apply for accommodation when you want to write your exam. Apply months before, but we will be discussing that in more detail. Each exam, all 4 of those exams are out of 200 marks. However, to pass, it's only 145 out of 200. Once you have passed all 4 exams, you will be issued with your GED high school equivalency credential or diploma, and it's issued by none other than the Office of the State Superintendent of Education in Washington, D.C. So essentially, you're getting that diploma directly from Washington, D.C. in America. You automatically get your high school diploma as well as your transcript by email. It's sent to you in a secure PDF format, which means that you can view it online. If you try to print it, it will say that this is a copy of it because it is a official secure document. You can, if you want to, and it's not compulsory, you can order a printed copy of your transcript as well as your diploma, and then you have to just pay some shipping costs, DHL costs, to get it to your country. Is it recognized? Well, yes, it is. In South Africa, if you want to get a certificate of evaluation, you can apply to SACWA, and they have found the GED diploma to be the closest comparable qualification to the National Senior Certificate, which is at a level 4, an NQF level 4. And what you'd ask me, well, what do you need to get the certificate of evaluation for? Well, there's really 2 reasons. First reason, if you want to apply for work. If you're applying for work and this work requires you to have a matric, then you can apply to get the certificate of equivalency and use it when you're applying and show them that you've got your SACWA certificate together with your GED diploma, and they should accept it as the equivalent as the NSC. Same thing applies in Namibia. The NQA in Namibia have done the same thing and found it as comparable to a certificate of level NQF 4. This is our website, as I mentioned before, ged.org.za. It's a huge amount of information here, as you can see, but I'm going to hand over to Lindsay to talk about our website and some frequently asked questions.
Hi, thanks so much, Sean, and welcome to everyone tonight. So we've really tried to maximize this website as an information hub for any students in Africa wanting information about the GED. Under the GED test, we include subject-specific information. Obviously, particularly during COVID, we had a lot of announcements that we needed to get out to the network of GED parents, students, potential parents, providers. So we always posted on the announcements, as well as we post on the various social media pages, which we'll show you afterwards, being Facebook, Instagram. Under testing centers, we've got a page per country. So for South Africa, Namibia, and Kenya, where we have information on the various testing centers. Under Marketplace, you can buy the GED Ready practice test, which is the official GED Ready practice test. In South African terms, we can almost think about it as the mock exam or your prelim exam. And we will talk about it, I think, in the next slide. Under resources. Now, resources is a really important tab there, because under resources, it includes a whole bunch of free resources that students can use to prepare for their test. These resources include guides on how to use the on-screen calculator, a demo of what the actual test looks like, what the RLA argumentative essay the look looks like. So really, if you're looking for additional resources as you prepare for your GED tests, please go and look at resources. And then finally, the frequently asked questions. We've tried to take as many frequently asked questions as we receive, and there really are questions that we receive on a daily basis, and provide answers and relevant links. Included in the frequently asked questions is such a question as, how do I apply for an accommodation? And in there's a link, and the link includes everything you need in terms of what type of accommodations are available, what medical reports are required to support your application. So it really is important, if you have a question, to go through the frequently asked questions, because they're jam-packed full of information. And obviously the contact us page, so that you know how to get hold of us. Okay, so if we quickly go and look at some of the frequently asked questions that we receive on a daily basis. The first one, and the most important one, is because this is every time you send a query to America, it really speeds the process up if you can include your GED ID number. So where do you find your GED ID number? In the top right-hand corner of your GED.com profile. Now, if you don't have a free GED.com profile, on our website under resources, there's a how-to guide on how to set up your GED.com profile. So top right-hand corner, it usually starts with the year that you registered on the GED. So if we go to our next one, we're going to look at alerts. So when you set up a GED.com profile and when you're getting ready to test, you could have 3 different types of alerts. And until you clear these alerts, you're not going to be able to book your test. So the 3 types of alerts is an age alert. So once any student internationally that is under the age of 18, regardless if the testing age is 17, will have an age alert. The age alert, you would click on it and you would download a parent consent form. You'd need to fill it in, have a parent or guardian sign it, scan it, and email it back to help@ged.com. So that is your age alert, and they can only clear your age alert when you're over the age of 17. So if you're 16, don't do your age alert until you're 17 and ready to test. The second alert that you can receive if you live in South Africa or Namibia and you've just set up your GED.com profile is a jurisdiction alert. The jurisdiction alert is an alert our office actually does, and it's to help students ensure that their name and date of birth on their GED.com profile matches their ID document. This alert was brought in to reduce the numbers of errors. And how those errors happened is that when students would set up their GED.com profile, they would often use a nickname or not their full name, or they would spell their name wrong, or often it gets confusing with America putting the month first and then the day, then the year. So students would get confused with their date of birth. Then when they pitch up to write the exam at the testing center and the testing center checks whether your GED.com profile matches your ID, if there's any discrepancy, they're not allowed to let you write, which means firstly, you're not allowed to write that day, and secondly, you lose your test fee. So by having the jurisdiction alert, we take that risk away because we get all those errors resolved before you go and test to reduce any test day stress. And then finally, the third alert that you could potentially get is called an eligibility alert. That is where you, for some reason, you've set up more than one GED.com profile, and they need to merge your profiles before you can book your test. Now, to merge your profiles, you would email your GED ID number together with your email address and the profile you prefer to help@ged.com and ask them to merge your profiles. Now, for any reason, if you don't receive a response after 4 working days from GED.com or from America, then you're welcome to send it to our office on support@ged.org.za, and we will escalate it through our escalation channel with America. Because we are aware that some students, with COVID and the backlog, some students are receiving some delays. So we are here to help and escalate for you if it's an emergency. Okay, so what are the more general test queries that we receive very often. I think one of the most common one is, can I bring a calculator into the test? And the answer is no. Internationally, students are not allowed to take a calculator into the test. They are provided with an on-screen calculator. Now, as I mentioned before, under resources and under maths, we have a guide on how the on-screen calculator works. So please familiarize yourself with that guide, practice it, because you will not be allowed to take your own calculator in. You have to make use of the on-screen calculator. Now, I just see tonight that Eskom's announced that there's a possibility of load shedding again. And during last year's busy test season, we had a lot of load shedding. So what happens if there is load shedding during your test, or if there's a technical fault? What do you do? So the test center will log a case with Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE will then investigate it, and they will issue you a reset voucher. With that voucher, then you can go and book another test. If for any reason you are stressed and you are worried about what's happening, contact us and we will help you through the process. But please be assured, if the test center logs a case, it will be resolved. We also notify America when load shedding is becoming very disruptive to our students. And you'll often see then an alert pop up on your GE.com profile saying, if your test is affected by load shedding, here's the procedure. So America also knows, and they're prepared for load shedding, and they're prepared for a lot of those cases should it be affected by load shedding. How long should you expect to wait for scores? 24 hours, which is awesome. So you write your test within 24 hours on your GD.com profile, you should have your test results. If after 2 days you don't, come to us. Let us get involved and help. What happens if I fail? So if you fail, you can rebook and rewrite. The test fee will be the same. But now if you fail more than 3 times, every time thereafter, you will have a 60-day waiting period before you can book again. So that's to make sure that you don't just retest, that you go back and study properly. Can you apply for a rescore? So the only test that you can apply for a rescore on is the RLA, Reasoning Through Language Arts test, for your argumentative essay section. Now, you're always welcome to contact our office because the rescore is about $50. So you're welcome to contact us and ask our opinion on whether we recommend a rescore or not. And I think I've already seen this in the chat. Can I convert my mark into a percentage? No. The GED mark cannot be converted into a percentage. There is a percentile rank on your transcript, but that is not a percentage of your mark. So I spoke about the GED Ready practice test. So the GED Ready practice test is the official GED test. It was developed by the same academics that developed the final GED test. It was developed to help students assess whether they are ready to test or not. It's exactly half the length of the test, and we always recommend students do it within 2 weeks before they finish. Sorry, they do it within 2 weeks before they write their final test, because you don't want a big gap. If for any reason you do your GED Ready practice test and it comes up that you're not ready to write, consider rescheduling your test. You can reschedule your test if you're not within 24 hours of your test date and time. How do you reschedule a test? We have a how-to guide on our website, so go check that out. So the GED Ready practice test, it's 130 Rand plus VAT, so it's a lot cheaper. We recommend students aim for at least 155 out of 200 to be certain that you're likely to pass. You get same-day results, as well as you get a guide on which areas you need to focus on that you were slightly weaker on. So it's really a good idea, and we really recommend students always do a GED Ready practice test before they do a final test. So if you look at the bottom, obviously those are our contact details. Our support@ged.org.za is our help desk. That is the email address that is always monitored. So there's always someone within working hours monitoring it. So if you've got something urgent, please email that email address. Obviously, we post all updates, important information, webinar information on the various Facebook and Instagram pages. There's a GED South Africa Facebook, Instagram page. There's a GED in Namibia Facebook page and a GED in Kenya Facebook page.
Thanks. Thanks, Lindsay. That was, I think, very, very helpful and useful to a lot of people. I think there's a lot of information there. We are going to go into our questions section of our webinar now. Please feel free to type in the comments section any questions that you have, and we are going to work through all the questions and answer them. So the first question is, I'm writing an accommodated exam at Pearson View in Johannesburg in Sandton. Does that mean I will write in a separate room?
So it really depends if your accommodation insisted, or if your accommodation makes allowance that you need your own separate room, you will. What I would recommend is that you phone the Pearson Testing Centre a few days before and check with them, because every testing centre is different. So I'm not 100% sure. I know obviously because of COVID and restrictions, there are reduced numbers, a lot of testing centres, but just give them a call and check with them first.
Okay. The next question from Wendy is, what about a university exemption? So I think let's just talk about it in general, and I'll just ask the question in a different way. With my GED, can I go and study at university?
Okay, we get this question often, so it's a good one. So USAP, being University of South Africa, is no longer giving South African GED students foreign conditional exemption, although they're still giving students who complete the same GED anywhere outside of South Africa. But with that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't study further. Boston City campus, they're accepting GED students for their degree programs, provided you meet their score requirements, or higher certificates or diplomas. Several private institutions are accepting GED students for higher certificates, and thereafter they can apply for degree programs, such as for teaching, marketing, all of that. The Nursing Council accepts the GED, so Netcare accepts GED students to study nursing. And also because a lot of GED students are used to online study. University of the People is an American accredited university. They accept GED students for all their qualifications. And we actually have a webinar with University of the People coming up a bit later in Feb, which would be great because they'll really run through all their programs that GED students can do, but they offer online accredited qualifications that students can study, which are very reasonably priced. So you can study further, possibly not medicine or one of those very academic courses.
Great. And just to, I'm thinking you've already answered it, but what online overseas universities accept the GED? You've mentioned already the University of the People. I think in general, there's a lot of online universities that accept the GED. You've got to go out there and look and ask. However, the University of the People is definitely a great option to consider. They're very, very well accredited. They're American accredited. They offer a great range of different degrees, and they're very reasonably priced. And so I highly recommend you join our next webinar, as Lindsay mentioned, where we will be talking to the University of the People directly and you'll be able to ask them some questions as well. Then, what age should my child start studying towards the GED?
So it's quite a personal matter, that one. Is obviously, we like to sometimes work backwards. Is the testing age for the GED, the minimum testing age in South Africa and Namibia is 17. So the student can start studying when they're 16, with the intention of writing when they turn 17. Now, if you have a younger student or a student who hasn't completed grade 10, there is a lot of providers offer a pre-GED bridging course, which focuses on the core subjects of maths and English, and it helps the students prepare in terms of, it helps them with their critical thinking skills. It's a shorter course. That one we look at probably 6 months. So from the age of about 15 and a half, the student could do the pre-GED and then move on to the GED to complete the tests when they're 17.
Thanks, Lindsay. I just also want to welcome Angela. She's been very quiet on the webinar so far, but she is very well versed in the GED. She's a tutor for the GED as well, and so she knows all the academic stuff backwards, and I'm sure she'll be answering some questions. Feel free to continue typing your questions in the comments section. So here's another question about Pearson VUE in Johannesburg. Is it hot in the exam rooms? Well, I think it's quite it's something just to actually phone them and ask them that type of detail. Whether I assume they've got air conditioning in each of the rooms, but please phone them and ask them directly. And then the second part of that question was, what percentage of test takers actually pass the tests and graduate? The GED in America don't release that type of data, so I can't answer that question, but I am aware that the vast majority of students that write exams eventually do graduate. So here's a question. What happens if a student fails maths 3 times and also got the same exam twice?
Sean, so of course we know if they fail it 3 times, they have to wait for 60 days before they can rewrite it again. If they got the same exam twice, wow.
I mean, I can just comment on that. The way that works is the GED they've got 3 batteries of exams, and or I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know the number, but they've got different exam numbers essentially, and so they randomly select an exam to give a student. It's not like they randomly select questions to give a student. They've got an exam already that's already set up with the correct type of questions so that it's a fair exam. And so it could very easily happen that if you write an exam 3 times, that you could get same exam twice. So what happens if you failed it twice? Well, you've got to wait. Am I right, Angela? You've got to wait.
Yeah. If you failed it 3 times, you have to wait for 60 days. And then I suggest you take those 60 days, you go and look at your feedback. The GED always gives feedback on your exam on what you need to go and revise on certain stuff. They don't tell you which questions you got wrong, but they do tell you what you need to go and revise on. So I do suggest in those 60 days, you go and revise on what they tell you to revise on, and before you actually book your exam again. If you fail your exam again, you have to wait another 60 days. So after every 60 days, you've got to wait 60 days again if you fail the exam.
So it's definitely worth going back and restudying, maybe even speaking to somebody else. You're welcome to contact us. We can recommend alternative or additional study material or getting an additional tutor just to go through the stuff to make sure that you've understood everything correctly. Maybe you just misunderstanding something. Before I continue with the questions, I've got a question. Lindsay, and it happens all the time. The pass mark of the exam is 145 out of 200. I get 144. Can't you just push my mark up and let me pass?
No. So scary enough, we do get asked this question quite often. The GED will never just give you a mark. In terms of the credibility of the qualification, the quality control, the quality assurance, they will not do that. If you fail by 1 mark, you will have to rewrite.
And it's not really just one question that you got wrong, because as we said, you can't convert your exams. You can't convert it to a percentage. And because you can't convert it to a percentage, it doesn't work like that. You say, well, just round it off to 145. It's very complex inside that you don't see. So that, yes, you can't round it off and get an extra mark. So don't ask us. So Angela, I think this one may be for you. I mean, Lindsay, you're also welcome to add to it. I think it's quite a good question. And that is, what preparation do we as homeschooling parents need to do before the child starts the GED program?
Essential education is fabulous. I work on essential education, and it's fabulous to see that I can see everything that the students are doing. I know where they're struggling, so I can assist them in everything that they're struggling with. This is enough preparation. And then, of course, your ready test. You know, if you're passing your tests in essential education, go and do a ready test. The ready test is a really, really good marker to see, are you ready for your exam? If you get 155 and over, you should pass the exam. Should. It's not a guarantee. You should pass it. But yeah, I think essential education is amazing. It's always been amazing for our students. And after that, do a ready test, 155 and over, you should be okay to go and do the exam.
I think if I can just add to that, essential education, just if you don't know, is a brand of a learning material. It's an online platform. But I think what Angela's also referring to is that actually there are 2 courses available that you can purchase in Essential Ed. The one is for the GED, obviously, but there's also another one, and it's essentially like a bridging course or a pre-GED, where you can it prepares the students and ensures that they don't have any gaps in their knowledge before they start the actual GED material. Lindsay, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think also it's very important to note is, as you mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, that the GED makes use of critical thinking skills. So it expects the students to understand concepts and be able to apply those concepts within various situations. If a student purely goes and parrot learns any learning resource related to the GED and thinks they can just walk straight into the exam and replicate everything that they studied word for word, they're not going to pass. They need to understand their concepts and then go and apply those within the scenario provided in the test.
Very good point. Very good point. I just want to jump back before we continue the other questions about the calculator. I see somebody has commented to say that the confirmation booking that they've got for the maths test says that they can bring a specific brand of calculator with them. I need to ask you to please take a photo or scan that confirmation and send it to info@ged.org.za so that we can take that up with the USA, because I'm willing to bet, and I'll put everything down on this, that you are not allowed to bring a calculator into that exam. I can guarantee it. You can bring it with, but you will not be allowed to bring it into that exam, no matter what it says on any piece of paper. So please, for us just to deal with that, with the USA, please send us a a photo of that to info@ged.org.za. The next question is a great question, Lindsay. Okay, so just some background. Lindsay is an expert in all international curriculum, not just the GED. She's worked in multiple companies that offer all different types of curriculum. So I'm going to leave this question to her. And that is, what are some of the main reasons why parents or students should select the GED instead of another curriculum?
That is a good question. And what's nice, and I was actually talking about it on the phone with someone earlier today, is what's nice that there are so many curriculums out there at the moment, because not every curriculum suits every student. So as we mentioned, if you look at the NSC, it's very much about parrot learning. You have to have your 2 languages, but a lot of homeschoolers really, they're trying to decide whether to go the Cambridge or the GED route in terms of an exit level qualification. So an exit level qualification being your grade 12. Now, Cambridge, you have to have a combination of 2 levels of subjects, your IGCSE and your AS level. But with Cambridge, you can apply to USAF for university exemption. However, you need to do quite a lot of subjects within 2 exam sittings, and you need to have a second language. And if I look at Cambridge versus the GED, I would say Cambridge is more intense, more academic, and less flexible. The GED, while you can't get your USAF exemption, you can still go and study further. Your route might just be slightly longer if you need to do a higher certificate first. The GED gives you flexibility in that you can study 1 subject at a time, as well as you can test when you're ready. So Cambridge has 2 exam sittings a year, and for 1 or 2 subjects, there's actually only 1 sitting a year. So if you fail a subject, you need to wait 6 to 12 months to rewrite that subject. And obviously you can't move on to the next level until you've passed the level before. GED, you do 1 subject at a time, write your test, and then move on to the next one. So it really depends on the type of student as to which curriculum would suit them better, whether they're a very academic student or whether they are a more flexible student who is looking for slightly less stress on them, needs a grade 12 alternative or equivalent. So they both use critical thinking skills, which is awesome because that really prepares students. And we see students that study further with either curriculums, they do very well because they're used to using their critical thinking skills. They're used to thinking outside of the box to be able to pass. So both curriculums in terms of Cambridge and GED make use of those skills, which is fantastic. But it just comes down to how intense, how academic, and how flexible you want your studies to be.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think, Angela, this is a question for you. What's the price that you need to pay to get your physical diploma or transcript delivered to Johannesburg?
I muted myself. Your first transcript and diploma is for free. You can order that. You just have to pay for the courier costs. Courier costs are about $47.50 per document. Unfortunately, you have to pay separately because the 2 documents get sent from different origins to South Africa. They get couriered by FedEx, and it's $47.50. It's about 700 Rand per document to be sent to your address, and it gets delivered. Please make sure that you put the proper delivery details, your address in, because it gets couriered to your door.
Physical address.
Your physical address, delivery address, yes.
Yeah. I think just to correct you slightly, the first transcript is free.
No.
The first diploma you have to also pay for.
Sorry, Sean, other way around. The first diploma is free. The transcript, $15.
And I think just to understand, it's quite expensive to ship documents, and so they charge a few $100 to do it. But in the past, we used to use the South African Postal Services, and some students used to get their diplomas and some didn't. Some got it after 9 months and some never got it. And so we took that offering off, and we force everybody to use FedEx, because at least we know that you will get it, and you'll get it in a couple of days, versus never getting your document and having to purchase another one. And so that is a reason why we have to use FedEx.
And actually for South Africa, all international testing bodies have removed the standard postage option, I think for all of Africa even, is because they've all found this problem. So regardless of which testing or which curriculum you study, you're going to have to courier for all of them.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's just talk about accommodations again. Will accommodations help with dyscalculia? That's the first part, as well as the second part is for color blindness. Now, I am aware that we have had quite a few GED students study the GED having dyscalculia, and so it works, and it can be done for the students. Details of specific accommodations that you can or can't get, I think it's a little bit too complex and detailed for this webinar, but please feel free to contact us. Just email us on support@ged.org.za, and we will definitely get back to you and help you with your specific accommodation requirements and needs. Lindsay, do you foresee yourself providing the GED service for at least the next 5 years?
Sure, I hope for longer. So the GED has been around since 1942. It's definitely growing in interest. It's growing in recognition around the world, and it's growing in acceptance. So I honestly foresee it being around for hundreds of years more.
I don't understand this. I don't fully understand this question. It says, can I pay for the GED monthly? I'm assuming they're referring to a school versus the GED ourselves, because as a GED, we don't charge anything other than the exam fees and the official mock GED ready exams.
And I think the exam fee, you only pay the exam fee when you are ready to book your exam. So it splits up the cost of the exam fee over the course of your study, because we generally recommend students study one subject at a time. So you would study one subject, book your test, pay your $80, then study your next subject, book, pay. So it splits it up nicely for you.
Perfect. And the second part of that is, what is the cost of study material? Well, we as the GED South Africa don't directly sell study material, but as you heard, we highly recommend using Essential Education, but you don't have to. And so if you want to know the details, every company or provider of GED material have different prices. And so just email us on info@ged.org.za. Tell us what you're looking for. Are you looking just to have study material? Are you looking for a tutor? Are you looking for a center? Whatever it may be, just tell us what you're looking for, and we can then forward your query onto the relevant company that can help you with the study material that you need. Lindsay, could you join a technical college with a GED?
Well, it would depend what you're looking to study. I would assume so, because the technical colleges, most of them only require an NQF level 4 qualification or grade 12 for admissions. The GED, you can apply to SACWA for that certificate of evaluation, which says it's the closest comparable to NQF level 4, so it would meet those requirements. But please always check with the institution first, but offhand, you should be okay.
Yeah, I think in general, I see a few other questions. Do specific colleges, Soltech or academia, accept the GED students as well? I think in general, we specifically don't keep a published list of who accepts the GED and who don't, because it keeps changing. And so we highly, highly recommend that you always contact the college of your choice prior to registering for the GED and check with them whether they actually do accept the GED.
And I think saying that on an ongoing basis, as a GED, we're engaging with institutions to educate them about the GED, what the GED involves, and just trying to get out there recognition and acceptance of the GED for various institutions. So it's always good to keep in contact with us when you get accepted to an institution, or if an institution's got incorrect information, so that we can always ensure institutions have the correct information when it comes to the GED.
Next question is, can I do one subject at a time, or must I register for all 4 subjects up front?
Sean, students, we recommend that the students study one subject at a time, because you can. I mean, why would you want to study all 4 subjects at one time? You have to have all 4 subjects. You have to write all 4 subjects to get your actual GED, but you can study one subject at a time, and you can write one subject at a time, then move on to the next subject. But it is also a personal preference. If you want to do all 4 subjects at a time, you can. But we recommend doing one subject, writing your exam, and then, but you have to have all 4 subjects to be able to get your qualification.
Okay, good. So you can study one subject at a time. Maybe if you get bored of one subject, we'll study 2 subjects at a time. But why stress yourself out over studying all 4 at the same time? I just don't see the point of that. So yes, as Angela says, 1, maybe 2, but I definitely wouldn't do more than that. Then Lindsay, Cedric asks, I'm a GED student and I would love to study at UCT, and not only study at UCT, but also I want to study medicine. Will they accept me?
Sorry, they won't. Students who get 9 distinctions in matric struggle to get accepted for medicine at universities. The GED tests has 4 tests. I would recommend contacting them and ask them if you did the NBT, which is the national benchmark test, after the GED, would they consider you, or what they recommend as an alternative?
I think in general, the general rule is any health-related or engineering-related courses usually aren't accepted for GED students. Here's a little bit more of a technical question. It doesn't really apply to South Africa, but we've got a few more minutes, so we will answer it. And that is, how does the college ready level and the credits, the plus credits level work? I'll answer that one. And essentially, it's just a different passing level. If you want to think about it like in South Africa in matric, you can pass with distinction, or you can get above a 90% pass mark. And that's really what it's at. So like a normal pass will be 145, but a college ready pass will be a little bit higher, and a credits pass will be even higher than that. And what is the point of that? Well, in South Africa, we don't use it at all, but I'll explain to what it is overseas, because if you do want to apply to an American university, it's very, very helpful to understand and to know what it's about. So the first thing is, many American universities, when you want to apply to them, the first thing you have to do is do an entrance exam. And so if you pass at a college ready level, that means the universities understand what that means, And then some of the universities won't require you to do an entrance exam. They'll just accept you directly. And the credit, or what does the credit mean? Well, in America, an undergraduate degree requires you to have a certain number of credits towards your degree. It's usually, if I'm not mistaken, 360 credits. And so if you do really, really well in some of your GED exams, they will actually give you some credits towards your degree before you've even started studying. And so it just speeds up the process before you can graduate. So that's what that is all about. But we've come to the end of our webinar now. So I'd like to thank you all for joining and for asking the questions and for listening to us. This will be recorded. We will publish the recording so that you can always go back and watch the recording. But please follow us on Facebook. We submit lots of information there, lots of news all the time. Go to the website, ged.org.za, read up. There's a huge amount of information there, unbelievable information. You can educate yourself there. It's really, really worth your while. And once again, thank you to Lindsay and to Angela for both giving up of their evening to be here and to talk to us and to answer all our questions. And to our new students, welcome. To our parents, welcome. Thank you so, so much. Have a great evening.